Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Friday the 13th. Nick there was channeling his inner Zoomer for a moment, singing along with Lil Uzi Vert, very popular artist with the young people. Anyway, look, today we are going to discuss a number of different things. We had old Nick hanging out in the courtroom with Sam. Young Nick hanging out in the courtroom with Sam Bankman-Fried, Caroline Ellison, and both legal teams. Spoiler alert, Nick thinks one of them is better than the other. We'll also talk about Yuga Labs and the backlash that they are facing once again after they revealed their rewards for season 6 of Heavy Metal. We're already on season 6. Goodness gracious. I did not realize that many seasons had already happened. But yeah, we have a lot to talk about today. Nick, go ahead.
Well, I have not been participating in that. I'm way behind. There's never been more fun in this space than there has been with the Yuga situation. But that's not what we're talking about right now. You said go ahead. So what are we going to talk about the FTX thing? Because I don't see it anywhere on here. Many people, aren't aware that I went to the trial yesterday, but I don't see that as a segment, Clemente. What happened here?
It's the first segment. It's Nifty Nick's day in court at the very, very top.
Okay. Well, I don't even see it in the document. Oh, I see it. Nifty Nick's day in court. Okay, here we go. Well, you want me to break this down? Let me give you. So I have a notepad here that I was taking the notes on because you can't bring any electronic devices in there. I honestly think today may be one of the another highlight day. It's not with Caroline. Everyone loves the Caroline Ellison story. The sexual tension you could cut through the air when you're in the courtroom between Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline Ellison. Sam would be shooting daggers towards Caroline, and you would actually see her. She doesn't have a phone. No one can have a phone in there. She's just looking at her lap. This was during sidebars that would happen between the lawyers and the judge. It was interesting to hear the people that were there at the trial describe the excitement that they were feeling during this trial. I'm going to be honest. It is largely a boring activity to be participating in, but you're waiting for those few moments where you got a little bit of a gotcha situation, or where there's like a comment that stands out that you can tweet and run down to people so you can hop out of the courtroom, give it to your team and say, go fire off that tweet about dating Caroline, and then people can go bonkers about it.
You're looking for an O.J. Simpson, Johnny Cochran glove situation, right?
Well, yeah. And I think most of that's going to come during the closing statement. If there is a time to be there, that's going to be one of the primary days to be attending the trial. The Caroline stuff was interesting. Yesterday was largely boring, but let me give you the first note that I have on here. Tulsa King on Paramount Plus, apparently a great show. Okay, that's what one of the people was suggesting while I was waiting in line, having a conversation with fellow journalists who were there to cover the story. I learned a lot from the gentleman who was in line. I don't have his name written down here, so I can't tell you who he is, but he is the lead for Fox News covering the story. He's managing the entire team. He has interns who he's running the notes down to, and then he also has people standing in front of the court who are there for the television. But I learned a lot from sort of procedure and his take on the defense of Sam Bankman-Fried, and how this is slightly more challenging. The other thing is the days that you want to be there is also when the prosecutor is going after people. Today is one of those days, so I'm missing that right now. I'm regretting that because you have the people from, what is it, the CEO of
BlockFi
is
Zach
going
Prince.
Yeah, so that guy is going to be testifying today.
How early did you have to get there, to get in?
7:30. You could get there probably as late as 8. But there were a lot of people there that were there at 5 a.m. Tiffany Fong is one of them because she wants to be in the courtroom to hold Sam Bankman-Fried's hand as the trial proceeds. So she actually sits there and holds his hand That's how she gets the inside information from him, because I will say she has some of the best coverage, in all honesty, in terms of context that she's able to provide via conversations that she had with Sam previously. I think people were mostly there to hear about the quotable moments. The Caroline moment that was the biggest was the Ty Hooker situation. And people were absolutely enthralled with learning about that dynamic and bribing officials. I also had people, a lot of journalists were saying they were like, yeah, that's just kind of the way the business works. Like, I'm from India, and in India, my buddy runs a large tech company, and basically there's like mafia style people that come in on a regular and request payment, and that's just a line item on the books and a cost of doing business. Was how he was kind of describing that situation. He also was saying, why tie hookers? And he actually, in all honesty, there's a legitimate reason here, which was he was saying their identity is fungible. Essentially, it's for sale. They're they're hookers. They're not running legitimate businesses here, so it doesn't matter for them to be. But most people say, hey, will you give me your ID to go sign up for FTX? Most people are not going to do that. And so that's why they got in touch with the hookers. So there's nothing, there's not much more to that. The thing I'll say, the other takeaway from it was the defense just wasn't able to poke many holes in Caroline's testimony. There were a couple things that they were trying to do there. One of them was essentially paint her as somebody. One was saying, like, essentially, why didn't you leave? And he didn't ask this question, but they're essentially leading to it. Why didn't you just step down as CEO if you knew that this was going on? And why didn't you do anything about it? It's kind of one thing, but they didn't.
Viable question.
They didn't ask that directly. And I don't know the structure of how you're allowed to ask questions. Instead, you can only present facts, essentially. So you need facts to paint the picture of what, or to poke holes in her testimony or her as to her credibility. There was another quote that came out of it, which was right at the end of one subject or one line of questioning that they were having, where she essentially implied that Sam may not know that one of the most sketchy parts of the FTX situation was they didn't even have a bank account for a long stretch of time. And so customer deposits were all going into Alameda's bank. This is kind of a known thing prior to this court case. It's been written about.
Yep. I remember you were appalled when that first came out.
It was just crazy, some of the basic business practices that were not applied here. But what happened was Caroline had, stated this, and eventually FTX got an account set up, but there were legacy businesses that did not want to change where they were wiring money to. And so they were still on the old banking system depositing into Alameda. And so she apparently brought that up as an issue, but acknowledged on the stand yesterday, there is a chance that SBF wasn't even aware that was going on. So that was at least another win for the defense. And I'm trying to think if there was anything else. One thing that was interesting is she was a billionaire. So that was pretty cool. She's not anymore, in case you're wondering. Another thing that happened was when the FBI raid happened, she had a boyfriend at the time whose computer was taken, and that was staying at her parents' house with her. And so that was surprising to a lot of people. Who was her boyfriend? They didn't name, but he did work at Alameda. So this was an incestuous circle of dating within the Alameda and FTX ecosystem. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know how many women were like, I'm pretty certain that it was pretty male heavy.
No, I feel like it must have the same amount of female employees as a Prada or a Gucci organization would, right? Alameda Research is probably a really good balance of males versus females working there.
Regardless, I will say she's incredibly smart. There's a lot of things that you don't pick up on when you're reading about the story it's very easy to view these people as just like characters that have no soul when you're consuming a lot of the information. Hence, like a lot of the Twitter stuff the other day has just been about how ugly she is, and she's able to see that stuff. I'm surprised, like when she's in there, the composure that she has. Like, she's facing a significant amount of jail time. I know that she's probably been living with that for a year now, and she's sort of processing it. So it's probably better that, like, that it's not weighing on her as heavily at this moment in time. But she was very well prepared by the prosecution, and she was just absolutely. There were a couple of remarks, for example, which was the defense attorney yesterday said something like, would it be fair to say that you usually say there's a term buy on the way down? And she's like, and I think everyone in the room who's like pays attention to crypto essentially was like, what? And she basically communicated what we were all feeling in that moment, effectively being like, I don't believe that that's a technical term, and kind of smirking about the situation. But what it turned out to be was like she had written in her notes one day. They kept bringing up pictures of the notes, that her daily notes that she had on her computer. And she just did lists, to-do lists essentially. And those items would be like, token X, buy on the way down, token X, buy on the way down. And so she had like written this thing. And so the guy somehow interpreted that as like a technical term that they can use. So it's little things like that keep the experience entertaining. There's also a lot of journalists basically just sitting in the room that you get to talk to, and have all of them have different positions, opinions, insight, experience as it applies to documenting this thing, giving you historical context, in this case, over the past week. Then there's some like more seasoned journalists who are there describing this versus other court cases that they've covered, and that they've been doing this for a decade. And hearing from people like that was just fascinating to listen to and have conversations with these individuals, because I'm just like, man, this is just remarkably interesting. And you don't have your phone with you, so you're just talking and having a conversation with these people.
I like that part.
It was really interesting. Last comment. So when you go into the room, the name of the game is you want to rush into this room and get one of the seats next to the monitor, basically, because there's a monitor right in front of you. And the reality, the monitor is like, I'd say, a 25-inch monitor, but the image itself that's being projected of the courtroom is basically about like 3 inches in size. It's quite small. And so you're like, you have to like look pretty closely. The witness stand fits within one of those. So there's two of them that are I'd say somewhere around 3 inches side by side. And so the witness one, you see a little more detail in there. Sam is a tiny circle. You can see where he's looking, and you're sitting in another courtroom of the exact same layout as the court that he's operating in. I was in the overflow room. I wasn't in the SBF room, and I also didn't want to be, because you can't even leave to like use the bathroom or anything. Whereas if you're in the overflow room, you basically can do whatever you want.
It's a party in there. It's a party in the overflow room.
And people kind of snicker and make remarks, and there's conversations, and it's like a party during the breaks, basically.
With no phones, it honestly sounds kind of fun. I kind of want to go and hang out in there. There's girls. It's pretty interesting.
New York's hottest new club is the overflow room, the SBF trial.
I'm gonna be honest,
there's a good time.
Attractive young people hanging out, having a conversation. It is, and they're smart.
And also Nick.
Yeah, and then Nick's in there. So, I could be like making fun of Nick. It's like, hey, look at Nick. Real quick.
Hey, it's Nick. Hey, Nicky boy. This is my buddy Nicky boy. We're out here watching the testimony of Caroline Ellison. We got another video coming today. The thing that I've been trying to figure out is like, is it worthwhile to be there? I think it's worth going at least like once. And I think there's a couple more that I would like to go to. I'd like to be prepared for it. There's also some relationship development work that I want to do there in that there's an inner circle of people that get access to transcripts. And I started forming relationship with the core person, the core contact who happens to work at the Wall Street Journal. And she's sort of the ringleader going on with this. And so I met her, I shook hands, but I didn't get yesterday's transcript. And so I want to go back there to be like, hey, I saw you before. You said you were down. Are you questioning my journalistic integrity? Because take a look at my Twitter account. There is nothing on my Twitter account that would indicate that I am anything other than an above board journalist giving the hardest hitting information that you can find across any publication.
You're Pulitzer Prize winner in the making. I just want to comment on one thing, because everyone on Twitter, well, first of all, most individuals on crypto Twitter are pretty out to lunch in general. I mean, you have to kind of preface everything with that. And the way that they're kind of talking about Caroline, because obviously this was a complete debacle. They talk about, oh, she only used basic math. Oh, like, they controlled the market and they couldn't be liquidated and they still ended up going bankrupt. That takes skill, blah, 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 framing it like she's an idiot. I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if she sounds like a savage in that courtroom, Nick, and that she's uber prepared, because I have her Wikipedia pulled up. She grew up in Boston. I also grew up in Boston. She grew up in Cambridge and Newton. So that's basically like Boston elite territory right there. Her dad, by the way, Glenn Ellison, went to Harvard for undergrad. He then got a master's degree in economics from Cambridge University. You ever heard of that? On the Churchill Scholarship. I'm assuming that's Winston Churchill, and I'm assuming that's a pretty good scholarship. Maybe economics boy Spencer can weigh in on that. He then got his PhD in economics from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I don't know if you guys are familiar. So that's Caroline's dad. She's growing up in Newton.
Like the defense yesterday. He was just listing a bunch of facts.
Why does Caroline's dad matter here?
I'm talking about her academic pedigree.
He's gone to 6 schools. 3 of them you might have heard.
You sound like an out to lunch crypto Twitter person right now. She literally. So look at this little fact here. At 8 years old,
you could just say she's smart.
Yes, but I'm trying to really lay out like the degree to which like her academic pedigree is no joke. I know that.
And her father's sperm is the foundation of her experience. Let's be honest. That is the way that the world views women. And I think that's a fair.
I see a bunch of people that dropped out of college coming in and dropped out of high school coming in and just being like, oh, this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. It does matter. She's an educated person. Seems like she's actually academically gifted. We're talking about awards level stuff at the national level. I'm just saying there is some pedigree there to her intelligence. And I'm the first guy that's going to tell you college is like BS. I'm the first guy to tell you that.
And I graduated all of that pedigree, all of that education didn't lead her to using stop losses.
Dude, people blow shit up all the time. I'm sure Bernie Madoff had a pretty good academic background too, but I'm just saying people like, she's an idiot. It's like, dude, I'm not surprised that she's going for the throat. And I'd bet on her compared to completely delusional, mentally ill Sam Bankman-Fried all day in that courtroom. I wouldn't be surprised if that defense is wild. I wouldn't be surprised if his advisors told him not to take the stand and he's going to take it anyway because he's just totally out to lunch. I'm just putting it out there.
Spencer's perspective yesterday is really Caroline is the one that messed this whole thing up. But whereas like, I don't like you kind of replied to it. And one of the things, and you also just said, didn't lead her to use stop losses. She definitely made a bunch of errors here. Didn't Sam put her in charge of this whole thing? Like, and was she the one that was performing those trades that resulted in them doing stuff? Here's another thing that came out during the trial. And I want to hear your take on this, Spencer, but there was Nishad is one of the executives. I don't know if he was at FTX or Alameda. I missed that piece of information. But he came over to – actually, no, it was Gary that came over to her one day because she was like, I think we're insolvent and need to declare bankruptcy. And this was in like March of 2022. And Gary came over and was like, hey, turns out there was a bug in the software and it was displaying things incorrectly. We have $5 billion additional dollars. So that was like, and initially she thought she was skeptical. She's like, how is there a bug that has $5 billion that just like came out of nowhere and we're not able to account for it? But overall, the entire accounting system was a complete disaster at the organization. That they went through multiple accountants that they had hired. All of them had pretty much quit and said, this is awful. They'd found multiple discrepancies in the way that the system was being managed. There was a centralized database where all the trades were being recorded, but it just didn't make sense with the way that the books were happening, as well as the cash that was available. So there were a lot of discrepancies, to Spencer's point, of the absolute negligence performed by everybody on this team, including Caroline, I think, where they just didn't know what the hell they were doing and they were completely out of water. It's one thing to be a trader who's not responsible for managing all of the operational procedures within the business where they were at Jane Street, to then going and running a multi-billion-dollar organization, which is what they transitioned into, without any of the operational background or resources, and just thought that, they're going to just make this work. That said, they were able to come up with these very complex organizational structures of various LLCs and different offshore companies that they were able to if you're able to figure that out, though, I feel like you would need the accounting component,
right?
Yeah.
Surely that's your lawyers just setting up entities. It's not like Sam and Carolyn were like, oh, we need a Panamanian nonprofit that owns this, that, and the other. And no, that's what you hire the lawyers to do. And they sit and they do that. You hire accountants, right? But there's a difference between hiring accountants and what books you provide the accountants. I think that's where a lot of the issues have gone, is
yes,
accounting firms, are not going to go dig for the information. You have to give the information to the accounting firms for them to go do stuff. Now, if you have wallets, you can just provide a good accounting firm, just give them your wallets, they'll do it. But surely there's a mix of on-chain, off-chain, all sorts of other data that goes on in FTX. And you got to think too, how much of the lack of structure was sort of convenient negligence, right? In the sense of, the accounting was off, and so we got an extra $5 billion. How convenient, right? We're not insolvent, versus actually their accounting was whack. I would say it's probably a lot more of the former than the latter. And
yeah.
But also as well, she was co-CEO until the other CEO pieced out. The other co-CEO pieced out, I think Q1 2022, around March time. And
months before everything imploded, or around that time.
But there was also that tape that they gave to the court of in Hong Kong just before everything went down. A software engineer, he'd recorded a meeting that they were at.
Yeah,
they
that
were
was
talking
yesterday.
through. Yeah, exactly. So they were talking through basically what happened. This software engineer hears that there's this massive hole and they're trying to plug it with customer money. So customer money had been used to plug the hole, and now they were going to go and try and raise money to plug this hole. And when this engineer heard this, he just quit the next day. He's like, peace out, I'm done. This sounds so dodgy. And it just sounds like Caroline's personal judgment over the years of having a relationship with Sam became completely clouded and muddied, in that what she would have, if she had never known Sam, it sounds like she would have been the kind of person to have just walked away, being like, I'm not going in that, morals, ethics, everything. But because she knew him for so long, her risk tolerance for how much she's willing to cross the line changed. And then what seemed quite sad when you're reading the article is that on the one hand, he's saying to her, look, you can't quit, because if you quit, Alameda will just will collapse and we'll lose billions. But then on the back end of that, he's underpaying her to the male counterparts. She doesn't have equity in the company. So what he was saying to her face and how he was actually treating her were two completely different things. And I imagine over this last year, her reconciling what has actually happened and finding out the truth puts her in a place where, yes, she wants to say that she's guilty. Yes, she's done these things. But a lot of the accountability, I think from the outside, to me, still lies with Sam on this.
So
this is the thing, though, is okay, why are we saying Sam versus Caroline? How are they not all on the same fucking side of this stand? Send him to jail, send her to jail.
Well, she is going to jail.
Sam Trabuco off his yacht and send him to jail too, forever. Lock them up forever.
Well, if you've watched Goodfellas, you understand you got to have somebody snitch on the other people, and that's what's happening.
Pio's entire analysis of the justice system is based on Goodfellas. Real quick, Spencer, you brought something up about the balance sheet thing. That was a conversation that was going on yesterday as well. Fundamentally, she would send balance sheets to Sam, and Sam would say, make this look better or something, or like, please revise this, essentially. So he could have, like, it wasn't definitive that he didn't say cook the books, essentially. But you brought up something that was really important there. When it comes to audits, it's really what you provide to the accounting firm to enable them to perform the audit. So, and in the case of crypto companies, some of the people there were like, yeah, it's a crypto company. People don't keep track of that stuff. And I'm just like, well, hold on. So is that just like, is that a generally accepted thing in court? Is that like, oh, you're a crypto company, so like it's totally cool. Like the fact that the books are completely unmanageable and like impossible to track. Does that make sense? Their way of the spreadsheets that are in there are pretty basic, from at least from the ones that were pulled up. Anyways, yeah, I think Spencer, though, you do bring up a main point about that side of things. Signal on your Caroline thing. I think there was there were people that I spoke with yesterday who were essentially like, there was one journalist who had quoted another journalist that she had been hanging out with the day before, and she's like, man, when I was 24, I would have done anything for the guy that I was dating. And so like she was trying to bring in some sort of correlation to that and what happened. I genuinely feel that this was a progressive thing that happened to a point where you're suddenly over your head. Like one misstep, it sets you off on this path. And you just made the wrong turn essentially at some point, and it just accumulated over and over time, and it everyone's judgment became completely clouded to a point where it's a complete train wreck, and you're suddenly just like looking at it all of a sudden, being like, "Well, we fucked up."
Oh, yeah, it's literally like a movie like that. Real quick, our partner, Shrapnel, Tony from Shrapnel, has a thought. Tony knows a thing or two about running an actual legitimate business, so I'd be curious to hear what he thinks about this, and then we'll move on from the FTX situation. Tony, something to add here?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I have been around large businesses at Nintendo and Amazon. And at Amazon specifically, all I'll say is like hubris is a hell of a drug. And so like, I watched execs at Amazon fly hundreds of millions of dollars directly into the sun while chanting that they were absolutely making the right decision. And I can see that happening with you can almost see it in the descriptions of the court experiences that you're having and the testimony that they're providing. But that feels a lot like what happened here, where it's just like, they're making all the money in the world in their mind, and like kind of I don't want to say untouchable, but living in a foreign country, and increasingly engaging in what we can all only describe as like absurd behavior. And like that whole experience, like you can feel the momentum building and like the insanity. Amazon Game Studios was like that for the first 5-6 years I was there. We were buying just nonsense studios that were making bullshit games and just like I said, just watching money fly into the sun. And the only difference was we just had the unlimited money. And so like we could afford to do that forever, and no one would ever, call us on that. But if we had been using other people's money to do the kind of dumb shit that we were doing, like these kind of conversations, I have to believe would absolutely be happening as well. Right. And so, I could yeah.
Sorry. I was going to say, I also think one of the things that are key to that sort of activity is those executives have to be paid pretty well so that the decisions that they're making seem relatively less risky. That was one of the things I was thinking about here is like, how are they just like Sam's willingness to throw around $500 million at a time with various investments, which were just like wild bets, $500 million or $1 billion here and there. That's so bonkers in terms of kind of just with like literally just like a few key bullets of being like, well, here's the pros, here's the cons, and boom, here's $500 million. It's pretty crazy how they approach some of those things. And it's clear how delusional they kind of all had become at this point in time. But I'm assuming in the case of the Amazon execs that you're mentioning, they were probably pretty well paid as well as they were going into some of these
100%.
acquisitions.
100%. Or like, not just Amazon. When I was at EA, like one of my best friends in the world is this guy named Matt Marcoux. He was like employee number 70 at EA or at Riot. And his last job before he started working with me in Web3 was he was the commissioner of esports for Madden. And we talk all the time. The reason that the competitive gaming division at EA is like no longer exists is because the guy who was running it was just like smoking crack. And his last year, he asked for like $500 million in budget for their esports program. And there was an adult in the room who looked at him and they were like, why the fuck would we do that instead of making like another AAA IP? Like why? Like we could go and spend $500 million making the next Mass Effect series, which has like a much higher chance of being successful than these crazy, esports tournaments that we've been trying to throw for the last 5 years. And that's literally what killed the program. They were like, hey, like, okay, we have consumed all the hopium that we could possibly consume, and it's time to scale this back and go make video games again.
Well, you could have potentially built the dome that exists in Las Vegas for within you're within shooting distance of that budget, and that may have actually and that could have been the EA dome of Vegas, which it would have only taken you 5 or 10 years, and people would have said, "What the fuck does EA have to do with creating event venues?" But you could have given it.
It's an option. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on from the FTX debacle. Had to give a little bit of coverage after Nick spent the morning and early afternoon in the courthouse with the now disgraced Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline Ellison. Want to give a quick shout out to Shrapnel, the partners of today's show. You just heard from Tony, the CEO of Shrapnel. Shrapnel is an extraction shooter-based video game developed by a team of game industry badasses that is going to be launching soon. Nick, what are your thoughts on Shrapnel?
Well, there's a number of things that I think about this. Obviously the game, the quality of this is insane. Tony has an incredible experienced background. I was thinking about this the other day, Pio. My father is an absolute failure when it comes to business operations. And when I think of his own individual performance, I'm embarrassed. But I look to experienced, when I think of experienced executives, I think of people like Tony. And Tony has actually been, in all seriousness, a joy to work with. He clearly gets it. We've been talking about just like marketing campaign optimization and discussing, the product that they're delivering to market here. This is a world-class team that's come from many previous gaming studios. And I'm excited about the product that they're actually bringing to market. Here's the other thing: to participate in some of the stuff that we're going to be doing on these shows, you don't need anything other than sign up at the website for literally free. Now, they are promoting the expansion packs that are going to be dropping, I believe, on Tuesday. And so I highly recommend participating in those. But we're also giving away some of those. There's 2 different categories as far as I'm aware. We have the expansion packs, and then we also have the I'm blanking on the name of the other item, the operators.
NFTs.
Yep. And so those are tradable NFTs that are on the market right now. So we're going to be giving away a couple of those. Also, if you sign up now before they end up going live, because this is going to be an alpha release for you to get to participate in what's effectively an extraction shooter game, which is pretty exciting. The dynamics of it are pretty cool. Get out, be the last one. It's get out with the prize is essentially what you get, and you end up winning things in the actual game, which is, for me, sounds very exciting. So I would go over to, so right now I'm about to update the URL on our site, which will be the nifty.com/shrapnel. But for now, you can go to growth.shrapnel.com/the-nifty. We set up a landing page just for us. So if you end up signing up for it there, that's going to make you eligible for getting an additional reward before the packs go on sale next Tuesday. So I highly recommend signing up. It's at growth.shrapnel.com/the-nifty. I'm going to also update the URL live on this space so that the next URL we end up sharing is easier to say. But for now, go to growth.shrapnel.com/the-nifty. growth.shrapnel.com/the Nifty. I'm really excited about this game.
Yeah, me too. Growth.shrapnel.com/the Nifty. Love partnering with quality AAA level gaming entities. Call to action is go play a fun game for free, right? Go sign up and get ready to play the game for free. Really cool stuff. Anyway, we got to dive into the weather report here. Signal, please take it away.
Love it. I love that trailer, by the way. It looked like Jason Bourne just went and just Jason Bourne, that whole trailer killed the guy and was a Krav Maga specialist. So awesome trailer on the Shrapnel game. But today, guys, Friday 13th, don't be crossing black cats. It is October. Market volume 8.7 million, Blur 4.4, OpenSea. Clemente's written ouch because it's down at 2.1. Onto the market leaders. It is a red day across the board. You've got Pudgies, D-Gods, and the Apes all down as we finish out the week, with Captains being the only mid-cap winner, up around 4%. And onto the smaller caps, Grapes doing extremely well. That's up about 17%. Pixelmon up 18%. Little Pudgies down 5%, and Heavy Metal down 5%. Over the past 24 hours, the big stories are, well, in gaming, Yuga Labs is facing some serious backlash after they revealed their rewards for season 6 of Heavy Metal. The top prize is only $4,000, and it goes down to less than $250 when you get outside of the top 10. Big supporters like D-Farmer estimates that the community spent over $750,000 on the game, but the total payout will be less than $100,000, while Yuga teased that Ape rewards were going to be a big reason to play the game. On to more gaming, and Animoca-backed Grapecoin pre-sale registration goes live, requiring either a Grape NFT or a golden ticket. It's heating up to possibly launch very close to meme coin as well, which Clemente is predicting at least could start meme coin with utility season. Grapes are up 17% over the last 24 hours to 0.56, and this is nearing their all-time high. Looking over the marketplaces, well, a proposal to turn Blur's marketplace fee back onto 1% has gone live, and proposes that the fees be used to buy back and burn the Blur token. The proposal outlines that 300 million tokens will be released after the end of season 2, and the tokenomics upgrade is urgently needed. Blur is actually up 5% over the last 24 hours. And then lastly, onto an old fan favorite, 10KTF has announced that the PFP collection will be named the Grailed finally, and also shared, unfortunately, that going forward, they're going to be pausing those Thursday storylines due to their involvement in Other Side being much bigger than they originally planned, and it's going to require a lot of work. That is all for the weather report. It is back to you folks in the studio.
Fantastic weather report as usual, Sig. Nick?
Couple of things. One, does 10KTF is that now categorized as a rug? Like, how do you like account for that in the world of NFTs? Because there were a lot of people who were invested in the 10KTF storyline, and it felt, I'm gonna just throw it out there, it felt cult-like in terms of the way that people were paying attention to this and sort of expressing that there's always been a bigger picture here, a bigger plan in place.
I don't think it falls into the rug category ever, to be honest, purely because they gave back so much cash to the people who got in early. Like, it was one of those things where so many people made so much in return from like items. They even had an ape coin allocation. So that's the thing, is like, I think a lot of the stuff right now is like they're fairly comfortable just based on all the stuff that they got at the moment from being an active participant in this ecosystem.
Wait, what?
I got a question.
That's
Sorry.
wait,
Sorry, just want to say on
totally-
this. Just want to say on this, I really wish Yuga never bought 10KTF. I really do. I think they were the best storytelling PFP collection at the time, and that team had enough creativity, love, community that they could have just carved their own path. And it's just kind of disappointing to see it just be like swallowed into the Other Side story, because they could have been part of Other Side, but in a different way, in terms of like, you know, how World of Women can be part of Other Side, or how Pudgies can be part of Other Side in the future. But they had their own unique and distinctive path that nobody else was doing. That team, as small as they were absolutely killing it. And it's just sad to just see this swallowed as another Other Side, whenever that comes out, project within the ecosystem, and sad to see these weekly Thursday stories go.
It's
Wait,
tough.
I
was going to say, we're talking about real quick, we're talking about NFT prices. So Spencer's going to weigh in. Spencer, please.
I think Easy's out to lunch. I think you've not paid attention if you think that this is true. They delivered $5 million of ApeCoin, which is like pennies on the dollar of what anyone was expecting in the market cap of it. And all the other deliveries they've done have been airdrops of other NFTs in their ecosystem. There's no value that's accrued to holders over time external to that.
But haven't they been able to sell those assets for money?
Well,
correct or
yeah,
wrong?
but the two other people who now hold the assets who are then
But if you got in early,
the depreciation.
But if you got in early in that ecosystem, you were able to make money off the other assets, correct?
There were times that you could have sold your assets profitably, yes. But I think the idea, I don't think that defends the fact that, like look, the truth of what's happened here is that a couple, like recently, Figgy went on paternity leave, and the company's been really downhill since then. Like the reason that I agree with Signal that it's a huge shame that it was acquired by Yuga is that low key one of the best builders in the space, one of the best CEOs, executives, is Mr. Figgy. And Mr. Figgy hasn't been in the helm for a little while because he's off. He had a baby. He's kind of doing that whole thing. Maybe he's come back and he's the one who's sunsets or the Thursday programs. Maybe yes, maybe not. But like, this was one of the most promising projects in the space that is literally just kind of going nowhere. It feels like the only hope is that the PFP is notable and interesting, which it may or may not be. Right? It's kind of challenging to see how it could do super well in this environment, given that it's just like another Yuga PFP. We already have fatigue from that. We have. You see one of the biggest pullbacks is like Coda's down like 25%. You've got Codas, you've got Kodamaras, you've got Mutants, you've got Bored Apes. It's no longer true that another Yuga PFP would be bullish. The thing that would be bullish is what we really don't know is Beeple's involvement, right? Like Beeple was a co-founder of 10KTF. His involvement seems to have been shifted over to punks internally at Yuga, right? So if you see Beeple being really active in punks, that's not some random thing where people just likes punks. Like Beeple is a Yuga employee and was acqui-hired as part of the 10KTF acquisition and like is doing a whole punks thing with them. Does that mean he's not involved with 10KTF anymore? We don't know, right? But it may.
When you say promising, it could have been one of the more promising things. Do you mean in terms of price, like price appreciation?
Definitely. Look, two things could have happened, right? The most important thing that didn't happen that could have was the new Tokyo dollar could have been its own coin, right? That was what was teased. That was the original game that you played for the first year of 10KTF was accruing the new Tokyo dollar. And the new Tokyo dollar is meant to be its own coin. And if you looked, all the exchanges were the VCs that were invested in. They had Coinbase Ventures. They had Binance Ventures. They had every exchange. And so you're like, oh my God, this is going to be the most well-performing coin of all time. And when they got acquired by Yuga, they rugged the new Tokyo dollar and replaced it with $5 million of ApeCoin. If you think that coin was going to be $5 million, you're out to lunch, as Pio would say, right? Like there's just no way it was going to be that low market cap. So I would say that probably community lost $45 to $50 million from that not being its own coin. And then you had they were working towards their own PFP. Again, Beeple was a co-founder. If it was considered the Beeple PFP, oh my God, that would have been a huge. Can you imagine? 5-10 ETH floor easily. It might be one of the top PFPs. Now it's just not even tertiary, quaternary Yuga PFP, whatever. It's probably worthless.
This is an interesting situation. So it's on one side we have it is a rug. Easy thinks that it's not a rug. It's debatable as to what was the case here. I'm still.
What does a
holding on
rug mean? What does that mean in this context? Does that refer to price, or what does that refer to?
It's just negative terminology associated with 10KTF.
No, I am serious. What does it mean? I need to understand. What does that mean? That 10KTF is a rug.
They abandoned the path. It what to me what it actually means in this case is that they needed to make Yuga needed to make a hard decision. I understand from the Yuga standpoint how they approach this, but what I view it as is it's very similar to a software startup being acquired and then they shut down access to it for people and it gets absorbed or just completely removed. And this is all too common within the mergers and acquisition space is that a large company like Google ends up buying a startup. Initially, they're this is a great acquisition because we're going to further we're going to provide even more resources to this team is kind of the way that the narrative always starts. So this is a massive opportunity. And this is only going to strengthen the 10KTF community even further. That's kind of the first message, right? Then you come up with the next message, which is like, actually, no. What we're going to need to do is Yuga is going to need to make this tough decision to essentially put a dead end on this path, take the whole team and reallocate them elsewhere. And the last step that we're going to do to close up loose ends here is we're going to drop that PFP that we've been so long alluding to. It's incredible how long it's taken for the 10KTF PFP to come out. We have experience with how long it takes to get some of these things out the door. It's actually one of the most impressive things, I would say, is the people in 2021 that got out these PFPs in just insanely rapid time frames, like Pudgy Penguins, for example. They just pushed it out the door in like a month. And so that's impressive. On the corporate side, these entities are going to be merged. We're going to see a lot more of this, though. And I will say it's a better thing than like the team just leaving and being like, we took all the money. Ha, 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 ha. Like there's one circulating right now that Easy mentioned with a guy who was posting pictures of a Rolex and some other stuff. What was that, Easy?
It was Cubs by Kungs. So Yoga Pets and Cubs. Right after the Yoga Pet mint, there's been a lot of conversation and lack of excitement because like nothing's really happened. Price has only gone down. The founder posted a picture of a new house, a new Tesla, and then today, birthday present to myself, which was a Rolex.
It's funny that he's posting that. Look, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the last thing I was going to say is I was going to pose a question, Pio. Which game is going to launch first, Other Side or Shrapnel?
I think we all know the answer to that, and it's not Other Side.
And which one do you think is going to be higher quality?
The way it's looking right now, Shrapnel's looking pretty damn good. I mean,
I'm seeing gameplay from both. I'm hyped for Shrapnel personally. The Roblox iteration of Me Bits on Other Side, I'm not too excited.
So, real quick, I did update the link. You can just go to the nifty.com/shrapnel. Boom, made it easy for you. The nifty.com/shrapnel, SHRAPNEL. And you can sign up for free. What the hell? And their game's going to come out before Other Side, whatever freaking game they're releasing. They got heavy metal. That is a subject matter for us to dive into. Was there something else that you wanted to say?
Spencer does.
I got to jump in here because, wow. I mean, talk about fast iteration, shipping product. Nick did that while on air, while trying to be funny. I don't know if he succeeded, but he was trying. And so that's impressive to me.
Wait, hold on. Are you analyzing my ad injection there?
No. He's analyzing your ability to make a new link. The nifty.com.
Your coding ability.
I mean, live on air. That's no small feat. Multitasking here.
Yeah. Well, look, it's crazy some of the skills that I have, Spencer, and I appreciate the acknowledgement. What were you going to say, Pio? And I'd love to discuss the heavy metal situation that we have.
We'll get to that. I have a question for Spencer. Bunny has his hand raised. I want to hear from Bunny first. Then I want to ask Spencer a question. Bunny, what's going on?
Spencer, you can't just say if Yuga didn't buy 10KTF, their PFPs, which are had nobody seen, would be 10 ETH in this market. Like that's that's not proof of anything. That's just your personal speculation, right?
Well, who said that?
No. Yeah, I did say that, and I stand by that. No, here's the thing: is like you have to understand is that like it's not obvious to me that Beeple is still involved in the 10KTF PFP, but it would have been seen by the market as the Beeple PFP, right? Like, do you not think the Beeple PFP would be worth?
They sold their company for peanuts, right? So like that doesn't really indicate that they were like long term gonna like put their blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. Like I don't know.
I don't know if the Beeple PFP, it has not been demonstrated that people care about artist PFPs. There are some rare ones.
Spencer on this. The Beeple PFP would have been, I don't know if it'd be 10. I would say 5 to 80, no hesitation. Just purely
without having to do anything, right?
Without doing anything. Dude, the Beeple price is cooked.
Here's the thing though, it still wouldn't have been the main asset in the ecosystem.
Doesn't need to be.
It was already the most convoluted ecosystem in NFTs before the acquisition.
The whole thing was a launch of a coin that then got rugged because it became ApeCoin, right? And the Beeple PFP.
That coin would be at 0 now.
No, it
Spencer.
wouldn't.
Let's be honest.
You clearly do not know how to trade coins. You think
I
that coin
kind
would
of,
be at
I
zero.
actually kind of agree that
I agree with
token,
Bunny.
like, yeah, what
ApeCoin is crumbling
headed
right now.
I'm
towards
Team
zero.
Spencer here.
If
I'm Team
coin
Spencer
is at
here.
$1 billion market cap, you guys are out to lunch.
I think
just
you're
saying-
Not even a good
overreaching.
lunch, a
No,
fast food lunch.
I'm sorry, but I think you're really overreaching on the Beeple PFP. He was pretty behind the scenes on this project. He didn't really talk about it. Like, you had to kind of be in the Discord. I mean, like that narrative has been spun by people who hold the assets, but I don't think the market viewed it as the Beeple PFP. Like, Beeple released something with VFriends. There, it's very clear it's Beeple's work.
But that's
like,
VFriends is the
but
thing.
to say, yeah, I know, but to say he has his hand in the PFP is, I'm sorry, but it's people who hold the assets spinning that narrative. It was not the Beeple PFP. It just wasn't.
But if
This-
you go to their website, he is listed as an executive.
Yes, I know, but he's not.
He's
Look, everybody knows how to do like a PFP, right? How to make one. You need the artist to be actively involved and to put their hand up and say, I am the artist behind this PFP collection. He never, ever, ever indicated he was going to do that. It's people overreaching, spinning that it's PFP for the price to go up. That is it.
So
Oh!
Nick's doing some really cool visuals
Whoa!
representing some professional
Whoa!
wrestling style. Yeah, elbow drop from Signal to
I
Spencer.
mean-
That one actually shook the desk. I wonder if Nick's neighbors heard that one downstairs.
Nah, because
I-
my place is so big because I rugged the project. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, no, I have a question that I've been trying to
I
get
actually
off.
can't hear my neighbors, by the way. So everyone's like, "Oh, luxury condominium."
So we're talking about a few different things here, and I want to ask Spencer a question. And Spencer, I understand that your livelihood is running an NFT fund. So I understand that there's probably situations on this show where you cannot just fully transparently speak your mind because of the fact that you have this vested interest in your business, which is your livelihood. And I do understand that. But I want to break this down a little bit. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the thesis on why a Beeple profile picture collection would be priced at a high level without any action, no building required, is because Beeple literally made a sale that made him a top 3 living artist. So there is a built-in value that comes with anything Beeple does. He doesn't have to do anything besides just be Beeple. He could overinflate his supply, but he hasn't really done that. It doesn't seem like he doesn't have to do that. Is that why you're saying, and this is like sort of the first question, this isn't supposed to be a hard question, is that why that Beeple PFP, if it actually was a Beeple PFP, you think it would be like a 5 ETH floor or whatever without doing anything? Is that kind of why?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's just
So-
simple, right?
It's super simple.
Real quick though, the Beeple Everyday 2020 is the less than 800 pieces and doesn't have a 10 ETH floor, right? So to assume his 10,000 PFP collection, which is buried in the middle of 10 KTS entire thing, would be like at 5 to 8 ETH is crazy to me. Like, that's wild.
Any comment? I have a comment on that, but I'd be curious, Spencer, do you have a comment on that idea, given the price correlation between the addition pieces versus the profile picture?
No one wants. Look, I'm not a big believer in additions generally, right? Like that. That's just
Fair.
I don't think additions are super valuable.
Fair, and I think the market kind of agrees with you. You don't see Cosmo de Medici. The Cosmo de Medici and the big collectors, they're buying one of ones for the most part. This is an addition from Nifty Gateway. There are not a lot of additions from Nifty Gateway that have really sustained high value. So Spencer, to the broader 10 KTF idea, you're talking about a token having value, the Tokyo dollar having value. What would make a token like that have value, and what could 10 KTF have done differently in your mind?
Look, there's a very simple formula to tokens having value. And, there's a difference between sustained value and like at least one pump at launch, right? And the thing is this, if you are listed on a tier 1 exchange, I'm talking Binance, I'm talking Coinbase, even a tier 2, like I would say, OKX is probably the tier 2 that a lot of people are getting listed on these days. But if you're listed on, OKX, Bybit, kind of those. But if you're listed on a tier 1 exchange and you're market made by a tier 1 market maker, say, Wintermute, say GSR, say Tower, say one of those tier 1 market makers, there's just a minimum threshold for your market cap. Like it's just how this works, right? And if you want to get pumped to Valhalla and then sold off, you can go to the the sketchy Russian one, right? Like there's various market makers you can go to, but like people in NFTs just like don't understand that formula has a minimum threshold, and that minimum threshold is probably something like 50 to 100 mil, right? Usually much more. And so at the very least, I think if you look at 50 mil, if you have those two things, and every indication based on who their investors were was that their coin would have had both of those things.
And what? Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I mean, I feel like at this point, it's what could have been. It was missed. It's a rug. That's where there was a lot of opportunity there. If you were smart like Easy and you sold at the top, you made money off of it. I kept my Gucci apes because I thought they looked cool, and I'm still holding on to them, hoping that people view that as a valuable collectible one day. But I don't know. The whole situation is ridiculous. I appreciate the spiciness that we're having over NFTs still. So that's something that talk about a market still existing. The drama is real here as it applies to it. I'm curious. Well, I don't want to completely throw off the topic here, but I am interested in the heavy metal situation before we wrap.
Do it.
So my timeline is just filled with FUD at this point about Yuga. I've never seen Bored Ape holders as negative on the situation. I think D Farmer was what were you gonna say?
You still hold a mutant, but go ahead.
I do own a mutant, and I own multiple other Yuga assets, including heavy metal and other deed land, which I don't know that I don't know that I upgraded it for whatever needs to be done. There's so many steps that I'm supposed to take here that I lost track. But D Farmer, I think, kicked off a lot of the debate over the legitimacy of what appears to be the reward sizes that are being given out as part of heavy metal. People are just pissed off. And I think that's a weekly reward where the top reward is like $3,000 or something like that. Now, to be fair, that's every week. This is such a tough situation, and D Farmer does come from the perspective of someone who's used to receiving all of these drops. The frustration seems like they somehow missed the exit. Like they missed the opportunity to leave on the way down is where I feel like a lot of the frustration is coming from. Because there was, I always said on the shows, it was the keep betting on Yuga until that bet no longer works. And the writing was on the wall where in terms of by betting on it, it means buy the NFTs.
And the price goes up, yeah.
And Other Deed was kind of the peak moment. That drop was where a lot of prices had run up into that drop. And it's just been down ever since then for the most part with short-term spikes. And it's very difficult to follow along with these things. I know some of the apes are going to be like, oh, Nick's back fudding Yuga yet again. But my perspective is one also that's shared, I think, among a lot of ape holders, which have experienced it. The only difference is it's once the contrast for what they would say is well, Nick sold his apes. And it's yeah, I did. And that was a smart idea or smart decision. But it still doesn't mean that I have no interest in what they're up to. And they sort of feel more 10K TFE in sort of their path, which did become increasingly complex over time. And it's just impossible for them to sustain, continue airdropping money to people. It's just that model does not work on a sustained basis. Yet they expect that a lot of these holders, that's what their biggest issue is with this. It is two things. One, the complexity, and other, the value that you get for participating. I'm curious what others think about the current state of heavy metal, though.
I want to hear from Bunny real quick. Then I want to hear from Spencer. We might go a little long here because I do want to take advantage of having Spencer here. Bunny, what are your thoughts?
You got 40 ape coin for 501st to 1000th place, right? When we go back to all-time high, around $30, that's $1,200, right? I don't know what people are complaining about. Now
so we're going back to all-time high?
What?
You think we're going back to all-time high?
No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying that there's been yeah.
Jesus, thank you, Nick. I don't know what they expect.
Counterpoint, isn't that exactly what you said?
He's saying that they got an airdrop that was worth that. They delivered immense value to the holders. Why are you complaining about it now? Is kind of how I interpreted Bunny's statement.
Well, yes, Spencer, I was going to try to frame this
Let
up.
Bunny finish his thought though, because he didn't get the whole statement out
That
before he
wasn't
got
done.
interrupted.
Bunny,
It
go.
wasn't done. And also, everyone's quitting now, right? So top 10. I mean, that seems easy peasy now. No one's playing this stupid game. Just got to click a button over and over again. I don't know. I think people thought they were going to get rich playing heavy metal, right? Like, this is supposed to be like the icing, not like the main reward. The prize, I would assume, is like the main course now. I don't know.
Fantastic insight.
Are you playing it?
No, dude, I gave up on this. Did you give up too? I mean, did you try this thing?
I played it
Terrible
for a grand total of maybe an hour. I saw some of the strategy that Spencer had outlined, and I could not even replicate what he was talking about in his thread, where he was talking about heavy metal, some going into the forge or going into the whatever the thing is called to come out and forge your items, and then failing at the forge. But Spencer had all these beautiful items, on his screen, and I had no idea what the hell was going on there. I'm actually curious, Spencer, are you playing the game at all still? And
Definitely not. No, we stopped out for like a couple days. And it became really evident the amount of time that was going to need to go into this and the lack of incentive for doing so.
And that's what I wanted to ask about, is the correlation between making a video game business, creating games that people are interested in playing inside and outside the space, versus releasing these NFTs and supporting prices on the NFTs that come with these games. Like, I'd love to hear your perspective on that. Yeah.
So two things. One is
Tony, I want to hear from actually on this matter, because he's running one of those businesses. But go ahead, Spencer.
You have to look at just the insane destruction of value in the Yuga Labs ecosystem since January, right? We talk about, other side was the peak. Well, there was another like pump really hard in January, December through January of last year, when heavy metal, the top tier heavy metals, tier 4, sewer pass tickets went for like 7 to 9 ETH. Like, I don't know if you guys remember this. They went for more than a mutant goes for today. They went for almost a third of what a Bored Ape goes for today. Like, this is just kind of crazy if you look back on that a heavy metal was worth a third of today's Bored Ape price. And I think one of the most bullish announcements that I saw in the recent days was that Yuga Labs is spinning up like a Yuga Gaming new Twitter account to separate out the gaming stuff from the like social club stuff. And this is because, like, I mean, I don't know, like, if you joined the Bored Ape Yacht Club thinking it was like a social club, and now it's like these shitty flash games that go on too long, that aren't well thought out, like, those just need to be cultivated out. And I understand that they hired a gaming CEO and he has a focus on gaming, but it's really not proven to be a core competency of Yuga Labs. I would love for them to prove me wrong. I would love for them to be able to issue something that is a good and playable game, exciting and fun. I thought Dookie Dash was kind of close to that, although it was it was a simple flash game. Like, it wasn't anything
but
crazy.
it attracted an audience, including big time gamers. That was a W in my mind. I don't know.
Yeah, but this is the thing, is like, at the end of the day, if I played Dookie Dash for like a couple of days and then I didn't get my top reward or whatever, like, all right, that's his life, right? At the end of the day here, like, the amount of annoyance that this game was to play, like, it's annoying to play. Even if you enjoy it, it's still annoying, right? And so if you sat there and you were annoyed for X amount of time and you did this, and you're like, you know what, but at the end of I'm going to do it's so annoying, no one else is going to do it, and therefore I'm going to do it, and I'm going to reap the benefits of doing so. And then you got like a couple of ape coins to slap in the face, less ape coin than you had to spend to do it. Like, it's just, it feels bad, right? I think it would have been better if they just updated the heavy metal as based on playing, which is kind of what everyone thought they were doing. And maybe they will still do, right? But like, the ape coin is, and this is the same thing that happened with 10ATF, where like the ape coin is so marginal that people are getting like a couple of dollars that it's actually like more insulting than not giving them anything.
I'm curious from Tony, what your observations are, what your lessons learned, if any, are from observing the execution of Yuga as someone who's viewed, like, in their case, they're viewed as, interestingly enough, they're viewed as a gaming leader, which is odd because they didn't start that way. So they weren't known, but now they have a seasoned executive. What lessons do you have from observing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a trope in entertainment that content is king, and I think that is just proving itself out here in spades. And what I mean by that is, I think you guys hit the nail on the head with the types of experiences that are coming out. Like they're lightweight. You know, I'd call them not full featured experiences. Similar to like what we're going to come out with for our early access, right? Although like we're an Unreal 5.5 game, we're not a Flash game, but like we won't have the full features of Shrapnel out during early access, right? You won't be able to make your own maps and make your own skins and shit. You'll be able to run around and shoot each other, and collect Sigma and stuff like that. And so, you know, I think that someone said earlier, I don't know if it was Bunny, that was like, oh, you can't expect to buy these things and just get free money forever. And I actually would challenge that, right? And sorry, I hope this is legal, but like in my mind, the way to build an economy that really does financially reward people who are engaged in it ongoing, which is, by the way, 100% Shrapnel's goal, is to really deeply understand how the business makes money, and then how you can responsibly carve off a percentage of that money to go back to the people who are creating value in the business, right? We did this at Amazon with Twitch Prime and Prime Gaming. That was a product that I created there. There's, you know, over $40 million a year when I left 5 years ago or 6 years ago that flows through Twitch Prime free subscriptions, right? And that's just a cost of doing business, cost of goods sold, whatever you want to call it. There's a line item for that dollar spent. Similarly, at Shrapnel, we have a line item for money that will go from our coffers back to the community. There's a community rewards pool, and that's baked into our business model. And I think that is really the important consideration that I've observed, is that I think to your point, Pio is the one who was just talking, maybe, or Nick, that, you know, these guys started out not as a gaming company, and so it's not quite in their DNA. The idea of creating a live services self-sustaining business that makes $102 million a year gross and nets, you know, $50 to $70 million a year. Like, if you're netting $50-70 million a year with a, you know, 100-person company, there's a lot of money to go back to your audience.
There's options at that point, Tony. And that's why so I keep saying this, I write it in tweets. I say it on the show, Pudgy Penguins. And I wish Spencer was still here. Spencer had to jump for his 10 a.m. meeting. I wish Spencer was still here, because he just literally bought 100 Pudgy Penguins or something like that from literally 3 Arrows Capital, which is a cool buy. And we didn't even get to talk to him about it. But if Luca makes a multi-million-dollar toy business where there's a ton of profits, then they can just buy the NFTs back or cook something up that brings, you know, quote unquote value. What does value mean? It means money. Like, let's just say it's money back to the NFT holders. I don't know why the NFT market is not calling for this. Like, in my mind, the NFT market should be calling for make a sustainable, successful business that has profits, robust profits. Instead, the NFT business, the NFT market is like calling for like, deliver something to us. They should be delivering a business that makes money. And then once you have that business figured out, all other problems go away. Bunny, you have your hand raised. What's going on?
Well, it was for kind of like he was saying that it's not enough money. Like, it's more insulting than getting nothing. How much money should you get for 1,000th place in a shitty Flash NFT game? Like, I'm serious. Like, should just everybody get a prize? Should just every player get free money? I don't understand like how much money you're supposed to get for season 6.
I think 1,000.
So, Bunny, from my perspective, as someone who's trying to run one of these businesses, you say that like it's an insane thing, but honestly, that's what I would build into the model. Like, I would look at the total number of players that we think we're going to have over time, and then I would get in a room with my finance people and argue with them about how much money we should give those people based on how much money we're making, right? But again, I come from Amazon, where like every customer is a fucking gem, and you want to treat everyone like they are the most important customer in the world. But that's how I optimize towards stuff like that, right? I would say, all right, we think we're gonna have 60,000 people play this thing. That means we need to have at least $60,000 times $10 in pricing. What do we need to make that happen? Right, like that is like legit how I would look at all of these exercises.
No, I get that, but so like one of the big complaints around this has been that the disparity in ape that they took in to what they gave out, right? But then on the other hand, the biggest complaint about ApeCoin is that there's too many, like there's too much ApeCoin going around and not enough sinks, right? So if you just give out all the ApeCoin you take in, dude, everyone's just gonna floor that ApeCoin.
So sorry, I agree with that, Bunny. I guess like I think Pio was saying earlier, I think that there are many ways to approach value transmission back to the customer. Like, I'll give you an example. Like with us, again, we give out a ton of operators through various giveaways and stuff. And like, we go buy those things, right? And so as the price of operators go up, like, we're going to continue to return value to the people holding and trading them by simply just buying them from them as we continue to give them out, right? And that's not going to change as Shrapnel makes more money. The only thing that's going to change is operators are going to become more valuable, right? And we're still, so like,
best thing I've ever heard right there. Literal best thing I've ever heard. It's like somebody actually I'm surprised that I just heard that, honestly. I'm not even just saying this. This is what I've been saying. Like, if you have a business, you can buy the stuff back and then the price goes up and people are happy. Nick, I'll throw to you and then we'll wrap.
Well, I already said Tony gets it. If you're not signed up for Shrapnel, you should be at thenifty.com/shrapnel. Like, it's clear. There's very few people actually that we do speak with, and I mean this genuinely, with partners that we've worked with. A lot of people come on the show and they just want to say, "Hey, let me give my spiel." Like, let me give my spiel, which has not gone through any PR team or anything else like that, and it's hot garbage. Like, I'm being straight up about it. It's been an absolute joy to work with Tony because he just gets it. Like, he understands the model there. If you're not signed up, make sure to go do it at thenifty.com/shrapnel. Another thing I was going to say is, I think we're supposed to be giving away some items, at least on this show, and pretty much every show leading up to Tuesday. How can we go about doing that right now, Pio and Clemente? Like, is there some way? Because there's 2 items that we can give away. There's 2 extraction packs, and there's 2 shrapnel operators.
We're giving away 2 extraction packs today. The tweet is pinned up top. All you need to do is sign up using in the next, basically the next 24 hours, and then we're going to pick the 2 winners. They're going to get that. All you need to do is check out the tweet.
Like, what, $100 or something like that, I think. For yeah,
they were pumping yesterday. Yeah, they were on the top volume day yesterday. So I think it's actually a little more than 100 right now. I think it's a little closer to almost $200 for those. And the operator gets you a ton of other stuff when the extraction pack kicks off. So sign up at that link, post a screenshot of the sign up at that link, and add it to your Epic Game Store as your wish list.
Yeah. So head over there, thenifty.com/shrapnel. We want to, Tony, it's awesome having you on the show, and leading up to Tuesday when that drop happens, we should definitely have you back to provide your commentary and color on really what this market is. The last thing I personally wanted to say on this thing with heavy metal is Bunny is spot on. The foundation of the issue that exists here is the way that Yuga structured the NFT drops made a ton of sense in the bull run. They ended up with way too many tokens in the ecosystem, way too much complexity across their different assets. And I think that original game, Signal, like talking about how she was able to go and play that game. And I did enjoy playing that game for the moment that it existed. It was fun. I honestly think they should do more of that simple, basic, competitive flash style thing.
Leaderboards, under 15-minute play sessions. That thing was a home run, man.
Yeah. Heavy metal became this whole convoluted, complicated thing, and no one in NFT land wants to do it. They're all addicts. And so the thing that you're looking for is you're looking for 5 minute. You're talking about less than 15. Dude, talk about less than 5-minute gameplay or less than 2-minute gameplay. That to me is really where the model is, because you're just playing it over and over. How long does a Fortnite game last?
Those can last up to 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
It's a way funner game than clicking the mouse on the thing.
Well, it's a shooter. It's an engaged shooter, which is like where you get like, and there's a ton of other aspects to that. I think that's totally different. I think for something like this, where there's a leaderboard, a short window of time that you can play for like leaderboard standings, prizes, all that other allocation. Whenever there's a tournament involved, short gameplay sessions can typically lead to that. We're talking a AAA build game for a battle royale. Of course, that can go significantly longer, and you end up like that average play session is like 90 minutes versus a flash game.
And the biggest problem to me, and I'm going to wrap on this, Yuga Labs doesn't have a revenue-generating business yet, like a proven, sustainable business. Pudgy Penguins is further ahead on that. Can Pie Pandas is further ahead on that. We're further ahead on that. Nobody would ever say that, but we're literally further ahead on that. Selling NFTs is not a business. It's literally not a business. If it was a business, we would sell NFTs every week, and this business would be worth $1 billion. We would be selling those bad boys left and right. I'd be slinging NFTs at you. It is not a business, right? It can be.
I just got hit in the face with one.
Yeah, you better be moving your head to get away from those NFTs, buddy. But anyway, guys, people in the audience are probably getting so mad because they hate this idea. Normalize the idea of an NFT organization being an actual business, being profitable, and then using that profitable money to, here's everyone's favorite term, deliver value. What does that mean? Put money in the hands of holders, whether they're buying the NFTs or give them something else. I'm just saying, normalize it, figure it out. Normalize.
You're not just saying, you're yelling it. I mean, you're really coming through with that and jamming it down.
People hate to hear it. It's like, what else do you want?
I'm choking over here. You jammed it down so far, dude. Like that was
literally
ridiculous.
People disagree.
Relax.
People are in the comments are like, disagree. It shouldn't be a business. It should go to zero. Like, no, dude, it's got to be a business. If Kanpai Pandas goes and sells a bunch of Ilya Topuria t-shirts, UFC merch sells like crazy. If they go make $1 million off Ilya Topuria t-shirts because he wins the championship for his fight in January, that's a big deal. Then they get sponsors on their podcast. I'm just pointing it out. They can go buy Kanpai Pandas back, make the price go up. People complained about the gameplay of heavy metal. What they're really mad about is the price not going up. I'm just telling you. So, ladies and gentlemen,
shout out to Ilya Topuria.
If he had a normal name, you wouldn't have been mad. Anyway, you wouldn't.
I don't know who Ilya Topuria is.
I know you don't. I
don't think most people know who Ilya Topuria is.
They don't. But the point is, if $1 million of revenue comes from the t-shirt because he becomes champion, it's a different story.
Last comment. You see the fight pull out?
Of course, bro.
No, that was actually marked incorrect. He commented on it. Yeah, he commented on it and said, "Quit ducking me. I'll see you tomorrow." So the fight is happening. Logan Paul versus Dillon Danis. The biggest fight of this generation tomorrow going down.
What time?
They'll probably go on at like 11:30 p.m.
The fact that Nick
it's UK time, so they'll probably be on at like 6 or 7.
The fact that Nick's interested in the worst fight of all time, but like not interested in John Jones versus Stipe is the problem with today's society.
No, that's not the problem. What you're understanding is how content is created. The biggest soccer game that's been going down in the UK is influencers playing each other and renting out entire stadiums, and they suck. And here's the thing. That soccer is more entertaining to watch oftentimes because there's so many goals. So there's always goals taking place.
There's hilarious moments, slide tackles that are just blatantly illegal in traditional soccer. It's a blast.
The only thing I will say is you should watch the David Beckham documentary because that one's pretty good. But this one, they fill up these stadiums with these sidemen versus YouTubers, whatever it is. These matches are covered.
That fight tomorrow is sold out. Tickets are so expensive to go to this KSI Tommy Fury, which no one even cares, and that's the actual main event. The Logan Paul Dillon Danis thing is going to pull a significantly larger audience.
Because all that people care about is the drama. Pio, you know this from the Bitcoin show. I mean, I think, and we know it from our own spaces. The drama is what sells. Anyways, this has been good. Pio is all about making the business. And I am too.
It's a crazy idea. I'm so out of my mind for saying that you should make a profitable business and that's the direction that things are going in. My apologies, everybody. You should just have a project and it should go to zero. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm just telling you. And Nick is definitely a YouTube boxing maximalist. Look, ladies and gentlemen, this show happens Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, right here on Twitter Spaces. It's simulcast to YouTube. You can also catch the video feed on Twitter, whatever platform you want. We're on it. You can also listen to the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Nick?
Shout out to Shrapnel again. The nifty.com/Shrapnel. It gives you the opportunity. Today, we're giving away 4 separate items that are happening. There's 2 of the extraction packs, and then there's 2 operators that we're dropping as well. All you got to do is go to that website, the nifty.com/Shrapnel. We'll be selecting people who register there. Give them out in it sounds like in 24 hours. So pretty excited about that. Also post your screenshot in the reply to the pinned tweet to let us know that you signed up.
Well, there we go. And shout out to Tony for contributing to the gaming conversation. Very insightful. We will catch you all on Monday, ladies and gentlemen, 9 a.m. Eastern time, right here on Twitter Spaces, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, wherever you want to find us. We're there. Have a good weekend, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. Catch you next time.